Hey, it's Carly.
Hey, it's Shamina.
And
And
we're
emotion.
oh
Oh, it feels weird that we don't have like a guest or anything because I'm like not looking at myself, and usually our screen is split, so it's strange. Oh, wait,
very
why can't I see my? Because then will the viewers be able to see us?
hit
There
that
we
or oh, okay.
go. I did.
What's crack-a-lackin'? Oh, we need to thank our Patreons.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Joanne Stewart, nope, Kevin Gallagher, and Therese Gallagher for your continued support. Also, we have a special announcement that we had just released on social media over the weekend. On Tuesday, November 30th at 8 p.m., Karlie and I are going live on Instagram to do an exclusive podcast episode. So only those who are tuning in to our Instagram will be able to view this. Or if you follow us on Instagram, you'll be able to see it as a reel afterwards. But otherwise, we will not be posting that episode onto our other platforms. So head over to Instagram if you don't already follow us and start following us for that exclusive.
And our emotionful handle is emotionful pod on Instagram. So follow us.
We're super excited. So before we get started, let's do our emotionful intro. We don't know what we're talking about today. Today is a day where Karlie and I are just going to chill. So let's get emotionful and discuss.
Yeah. So I feel like it's weird. We've had guests like every episode so far. How many episodes has it been? A lot.
A lot, like 6 or 5, something 5 to the 7 range, I think, that we've had.
Which that's kind of funny because I feel like initially when we talked about it, our intent was like, all right, 3, and then we'll break it up. And that just didn't happen.
But we're dedicating this season to our guests, so I think that we've done that. So why don't we do like a little quick like life update, since it's been a hot minute since our viewers have heard from us.
All right, go ahead.
Hell,
You got a lot that's happened, so
I have a lot. I'm congested today because I'm getting over a cold, so if I sound nasally, that would be why. Let's
got the
see.
COVID.
It's I don't have COVID. No COVID. It is wedding season in Shamina's world. I went to a wedding last weekend. I'm going to be in a wedding this coming weekend. So we are in full wedding swing. So that's been stressful. What else? I feel like nothing's going on in my life, but there's so much going on. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what details you want to give, but
there have been some issues with car trouble recently that have been producing more stress than usual. How about that?
yeah, I mean,
That's my fine line of my professionalism. Carly's like, just say it.
Just give it to me. Give me the juice.
But that's
really... We actually haven't been in touch as much either.
No, Shamina
hates me.
I don't hate her. I've just been busy, but I do miss you. So it's been nice that we're doing this today.
I know, little sick girl.
Yeah, yesterday was rough, man. Let me tell you. I was like, I'm dying. And my partner's like, you'll be fine. I was like, nope. And I was like, I need medicine. He's like, you haven't taken any medicine yet today. And I was like, I want my body to fight it naturally. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan of taking medicine either. I'm just stubborn. I'm just like, I don't know. I know it will make me feel better, but I'm just like, I don't want to take it.
yeah. But that's basically it. Work's about to pick up usually in the therapy realm after Thanksgiving is when we get a big wave of clients because everybody has to like spend time with their families and it really does. It brings up a lot of trauma during this time. It brings up a lot of family dynamics that we can kind of put off until the rest of the year. So we're anticipating a pretty big wave to come in the next couple of months with the holiday season because it usually brings up a lot for people.
Yeah. Well, that makes me like kind of laugh to myself because right now I'm going to therapy every 2 weeks because right now I'm on self-pay because my job that I have, it's part-time, I don't have benefits, whatever. But I'm about to pick up full-time, and the last session I had with my therapist, I was like, yo, if you take that insurance I'm about to have, I'm gonna like to bump up to weekly again if that's cool with you, you know? like yeah, let's
Like, oh my God, this girl again weekly.
Although I will say, like, I feel like I'm fine with the bi-weekly thing, but you know, sometimes it's just nice weekly, you know, like why not?
I have some clients who we'll go like every 2 weeks and they're like, Shamina, there's so much that's happened in 2 weeks. Like, can I go back to weekly? I'm like, I don't care. Sure. If that's what you want. I like that shirt, by the way. It's cute.
I got it at Walmart. It
Walmart coming in clutch. Look at you with the positive, nice messages. Be kind.
Yeah. Well, for me, like, you know me, I have horrible memory. And so when I talk to my therapist, I'm like, I don't remember if I told you this or not because it's been 2 weeks. And so sometimes I end up telling her the same shit, but uh, but also I feel like there are some weeks where I'm like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. And then there's some weeks where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could talk to her this. And it always ends up falling on the week that I'm not going to see her, that something happens that I wish I could talk to her.
Yep. Thanks. Usually how it
goes. Always.
So what's been going on in your life?
Well, obviously, I just said I'm accepting a full-time job position again. So it's exciting, but it's also a full-time job position again. But I do like the people I work with, so it's not as like dreadful. And I still get to work from home, so that's nice, but I never leave my house.
And it was like around this time where like last year where like work was really getting to you and you were kind of like questioning, you know, do I stay, do I go? So how far
yeah, it was last Christmas. So I had been like I had not been happy with my job for like 9 months or something. But it was not Christmas Eve, last New Year's Eve that I was just like, I can't do this. And then the next morning, I just was bawling my eyes out to my mom. I'm like, I don't want to go back. And she was just like, then don't, you know? And the day that I ended up calling out the day that I was supposed to go back to work. And then they made this dumb rule. And so I ended up emailing him also that day, giving my 2 weeks of like, I'm out. So yeah, now I'm about to be right back there. And then I feel like there's a lot of tea, but I don't know where to begin. I've been back and forth with the dating world. I had been talking, like I had put myself out there on the online dating, but it's so hard because I was talking about this with one of my close friends. I struggle to feel that like connection and that spark, I guess you can say, but to me like that's important. And like I feel like when I'm like when you meet someone in person and like you're like, oh, you're like someone that I might, and this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean for it to sound bad, but like someone that I might not find super attractive just based on looks. If they have a really cool personality, if I meet them in person, I'm gonna be like, oh, awesome. But like, obviously, online dating initially is just all based on looks. And I don't like that because I don't get to know someone's personality. So then, anyway, so there's that. And then also, like, you could be really good looking and like have a super dull personality. And like, to me, that's boring. But so I had been like talking to people, but it was just like getting boring. Like I wasn't excited about it. So then I was just like, screw this. And what are you doing?
I just have to respond. I'm listening, but I'm responding.
Anyway, Shamina threw me off. I can tell because her eyes were looking down, and I was just like,
I'll just have to look up when I type in, you know. But I wear glasses, so like it gives it away because you can tell if I like pull up a different screen by looking at my glasses.
I caught you, girl. Oh, so I got kind of bored with it. I just wasn't like it. I didn't care. And my therapist told me that I was wanting like effort and stuff from someone, but I wasn't willing to give it out. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. So I didn't delete, but like I put them on pause, the apps and whatever. And so I've just had them on pause and I'm just kind of like focusing on me and trying to like I started jump roping, which is fun. Jump roping is fun. I need to do it today.
Hard.
It is.
I do like 3 or 4 and I'm like, let's go inside.
Yeah, I set a timer for 14 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot. I can't jump rope the whole time. I don't jump rope the whole time, but I take minimal breaks. Like it's usually not like a long break. It's usually just real quick, catch my breath and then start jump roping again. But it's fun. I like it because it kind of like brings back like those childhood like, ooh, I'm going to try a trick, you know, like when I'm jumping, I'm like, oh, I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to see if I can do that. So, I recently did, I mean, like, I'm like, what do I want to say? I recently did go on a date with someone who I had actually met the very first time I downloaded, which was like a freaking year ago. And then I was like, nope. We finally met up and that was cool. I just don't know what I want. I don't know, bro.
You got time.
Yeah. Like a part of me wants to be with someone and then a part of me is like, heck no.
But I told you it's cuffing season. It's like once like Halloween is over, there's something like settles into the air and everybody wants to be in a relationship for the holidays. And then after the holiday season, they're all like, hot girl summer's coming, so we got to get ready.
Yeah, tell me how the 2 people that I like matched with and like had conversations with and went out with, whatever, they both want long-term relationships, which like to me it's intimidating because I'm just like, ooh, just left one of those and I did not have a good experience. So, but then sometimes I'm like, how much was it really a relationship? You know, like my past, like it was to me, but then as I think back, like, was it?
That is the question.
Yeah.
I would say it was a relationship, but was it a healthy one? No. And I think that's like the hard part is like, how do you know what you want when your only framework has been like the opposite of what you actually want?
So that actually, I'm like, so okay, why you know me, I'm like an open book and shit. But I feel like now I'm like, I've been telling a lot of people about this podcast, and I'm like, if I'm going to talk about my date experiences and then they're listening, they're going to know who I'm talking about.
Calling them.
But what I was going to say, I know. Well, so what I was going to say was, I'm going to generalize it. What I'm realizing is how do I word this? Eventually, I would like to be with someone and they are a priority, you know? But right now, especially getting to know someone, like, no, you're not a priority to me, you know? Like, I don't know if that sounds bad or not, but like, if I have other things that I have to do, for example, see my mom or hang out with a friend or something, like, I'm going to schedule with you and I'm going to plan with you, but don't expect me to like blow off my friends or my family or like push back on them to be with you longer, because I'm still getting to know you, and I feel like if I'm doing it now, you're going to think that that's going to become a habit, and that's not what's going to happen, you know? And so like I feel like I'm finding that balance of like, yeah, like the end goal would be I find someone, they do become a priority of mine, but also for them to become a priority of mine, they have to understand and respect my priorities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, there's a line between like being codependent and they're like your whole world, and like you're still independent in the relationship, but you can prioritize like your partner. And I think in your last relationship it was like codependent, like you drop everything, he's like jump and you're like already in the air, like how much higher you want me to go. And then now you're recognizing like that's just not gonna fly, like these things are important to me. I think your value system and what you're looking for in a relationship is changing.
Well, because also like the codependency thing is just not sustainable. Like I realized that, like I remember I would be with my family and the moment he called, like I would always have to my phone on me, because if he called, I had to answer. But it was just like if you flipped the roles, it never was that way. I would call, no answer. Hours would go by, no answer. And then finally be like, "Oh, I didn't have my phone on me or something." But like I would always, and so I'm just like, not that I'm not gonna do that for someone, but I'm not gonna do it to that extent. And then there was something, oh, so I was talking to my friend last night about this. I Do you remember who my prom date was in high school?
You only went to senior prom, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had a date?
Wow. Yes, I did. Thank you.
I remember you went as a group and then we all took pictures, but I don't remember you having a date.
I did have a date. Anyways.
Oh, is it the person who like you've been talking to from high school?
No.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
I have no idea who you're talking about. So anyways, my old prom date of high school had reacted to like my Instagram story, and I was telling my friend, it just kind of made me kind of sad in the way of he had reacted to my story, and then he was like, "I miss your spirit, like I miss you." And it kind of made me sad because I feel like I'm so far from that person because of everything that had happened in the past 5 years. And I want to get back to that person, you know? So kind of, I don't know. It just kind of made me feel like, oh, you know, like it made me happy that people think of me that way and they remember me like that. But it's like, I want to be there again, you know?
But I also think that's a different version of you because like your energy level when we were in high school was like
Yeah.
all the way up here. But I still think you have that when like you feel passionate about something or when you're with people who like your friend group and like that comes out, or like your family, like that comes out. You're not as like publicly displaying it, like whether it's like on social media or whatever, like you're not a big like poster on social media of like this is me, this is what I'm doing with my life. And but I think you still have that energy, but it's more like contained. Because before it was like out of the box. And then now you're like, we'll do this when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, but when I was talking about it with my friend last night, I was like, I feel like I almost said their name. I feel like my ex, I almost said his name. I don't think he ever knew me. And I said that to her, like, there would be times when me and him would be doing something and he would like get aggravated with me, and I would be like, you don't like me, like, you don't like me as a person. And he'd be like, what do you mean? I'm like, because when I am my true self around you like get annoyed. And so I feel like I had to hone it down so much that, yeah.
But then I think now your tolerance level is like, no. Like if somebody's like, oh, I don't like that, or I don't want you to do that, you're like, excuse me? Like, who are you to tell me that?
Yeah. Yeah. Faux show, homie girl.
I feel like we've talked about all of these. I feel really hot right now. Like very warm. It's very warm in this room, but we've talked about like all of these topics. We're like, we should talk about this on the podcast. We should talk about this. And then and you're like, I want it to be unstructured. So we just talk, and then we have like no direction. I'm like, this is where we're going to go, or this is what we're going to talk about.
Because we're flying off well, do you want to talk about okay, I watched the show on Netflix, and I want to know if other people have watched it, called Sex, Love, and Goop. Did you watch it, Shamina?
I have not yet.
Okay, well then I feel like we can't talk about it until you've watched it.
I mean, we can still talk about it even if I haven't seen it.
No, because I would like your input in it more.
But I can still give my input with the information that's
okay. Then I'll talk about a little bit of it. I'll talk about the couple that I thought was the most interesting. So if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But there's this couple, and they struggled like intimately, like they were like they weren't on the same wavelength intimately, which was interesting because you can do this quiz called it like tells you what your sexual blueprint is. I can't remember them all, but I know one's like sensual, energetic, kinky, then just like sexual. And I want to say there's one more, but I could be totally wrong. Anyways. Ooh, we about to see whole house.
I love the cat out. The cat's out of the room. Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag. So sensual, like if your sexual blueprint is sensual, it's like you're really into touch, which that's what mine is. Makes sense. I like touching. Then there's like energetic, and it's not like, oh, I have so much energy, but it's like you feed off of the other person's energy, like, and then there's kinky, and then there's sexual, and I feel like I'm missing one, and I may be, but then the sexual, what?
Side note, I have to tell you about this book series that I just read, and the sexual thing reminded me of it. Okay, so I have them here. My partner got me this book, Kingdom of the Wicked by Karlie Maniscalco. And I read it last week for the first time. Amazing. And then she has the sequel, Kingdom of the Curse, which just came out like a month or two ago, and it leaves you on the biggest cliffhanger, and she hasn't even written the third book yet. It's not even out. But anyway, I had to tell you about this because these books are like, it's like Twilight meets like 50 Shades meets like any love story where there's like a girl and then like it's a forbidden love like dude, but she's like, but I can, we'll make it together, whatever. It's like this epic fantasy love story, and you have to check it out because I need somebody to talk to about these damn books, and I don't know anybody who's read it. And even I've started following the author on Instagram. She doesn't even have a blue check mark. She is still like up and coming, and so there's nobody for me to talk about these books with. So if any of our viewers are interested, read the books and then leave comments of what you think about the books, because they're super. Okay, I'll give you a synopsis and then I'll let you get back to what you were saying. Basically, there's like these two twin sisters and they're witches, and they've been told stories about the demons of hell. And they're called the wicked. So there's 7 princes of hell, and they're basically like the 7 sins. So like gluttony, wrath, pride, lust, whatever. So one of them, there's like a murder, and then like this epic love story that happens, and it's so good. I literally read the second book in less than 24 hours because I was like, I need to know how it happens. I read all day. I had a headache by the end of the day. My partner's like, you need to stop reading. You need to put the book down. I was like, I can't. I literally woke up early the next morning before work to finish the book because I needed to know how it ended. And like my dreams were like about this book series. Like, it's amazing. But the sexual thing made me think of the books because they have some.
It sounds interesting. I'd be down to read it. Mail them to me.
No, because you keep my books for a long time and then you don't give them back to me when I need them.
I gave you them back.
Years later.
It wasn't years. It was months. Anyways, threw me off. Sensual, energetic, kinky, sexual. Sexual is just like penetration. Like what society thinks of as sexual. Anyway, so these two couples, he didn't like think that she was very like sexual, but it was because their sexual blueprints were totally different. His was sexual, hers was energetic, something like that. But it's interesting because they were saying that most men's sexual blueprint will be sexual because society has pretty much like groomed men into thinking that sex is like penetration and so then like when they did some more like exploring, he actually realized that there were some kinks that he was interested in that she also was interested in that could play off of her energy blueprint. But it was interesting. And I think that we like, what are your thoughts on the fact that most men, I thought it was interesting because I could totally see how most men's sex blueprint would be sexual because one, that's what society makes you think sex is, just penetration and just the typical stuff. But also men typically struggle to like express their feelings and things like that and understand their feelings. So if they're not even able to express it and understand them, I could see how they wouldn't really be into like energetic or sensual or kinky, you know?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the person because from clients that I've worked with who identify as male, a lot of them have identified like they need emotional connection to feel like fulfilled in like a sexual way. And so I wonder, I think it can also like depend on their love language, because if they're somebody who likes physical touch, then they may align more with like the sensuality or like needing more of like that emotional connection and gaining energy from their partner by touching through like sexual intimacy. But I also think it like depends on how men, like the individual man or person who identifies as male, views like sexuality and intimacy, because their idea of it may be like very traditional of like what society says of what it looks like. But from my experience, I've seen a lot more men like needing emotional connection, otherwise it like just doesn't do it for them, and it isn't like the same if they don't have that. And I wonder if it's because they've been trained for so long of like we don't communicate our emotions, and so being able to act that out physically with somebody can almost provide like that type of communication through the bodies instead of like a verbal communication.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that actually, because it makes sense, but I wonder if men are like putting up this front that it's just sexual, but then when they're with someone that they feel safe with, i.e. their therapist, they explain that they well, or their partner, but they explain that they need like that emotional attachment. But like you said, they're not given that opportunity to explore that. And so like you said, like it's almost like they have to use the physicalness of sex to get their emotions fulfilled. But I think it's interesting because I feel like I have come across a lot of men who who are like that, who like can't just have sex to have sex, like they have to have that attachment. And it's interesting because I feel like I've come across that a lot more than a dude who just wants to have sex.
Yeah. And like at the root of us as like people, we crave intimacy, we crave like connection. We don't like being alone, we don't like feeling isolated from people. Like that's how we've survived as a species, is in groups. Like there's not like this one person who survived and then like joined this clan and like produced or whatever. Like we survive in groups and with people and socialization. And so I kind of agree, and I wonder if it's, if somebody, I do think that it's very possible, like people just want to engage in sex for like the pleasure part of it, and there doesn't have to be any type of like emotional intimacy or needs after that. And I think that also depends on like the person's intent when engaging in sexual activity. Is like, is this just for like personal pleasure and I don't want anything to come out of it, or I don't need any type of connection, or vice versa. But I forgot where I was going with that. The front piece is, we tend, like as people, we tend to hide behind stuff, or we distract ourselves, or we avoid our feelings, our emotions. And those are like the two big things that I always talk to about my clients. I'm like, you're distracting or you're avoiding. Or you're keeping yourself busy so you don't have to feel things, because we don't like to feel things, or it's intimidating. We don't know how. And particularly for men, there's such a prejudice of like feeling your feelings, and this is what it looks like. And nobody's like taught like, this is how you be a man. I'm doing air quotes if you're listening and not watching me. And this is how you express your feelings. Like for women, we're kind of taught that a little bit more, or we're taught how to hide our feelings more so, of like, oh well, don't show weakness and they'll take advantage, these things like that. But and so I think if we do kind of run into somebody who, and again this is like generalizing, who is just viewing sex as sex, like are they hiding from something, or do they not want to allow themselves to feel that emotional connection because it like opens the floodgates for all of the other emotions?
Well, yeah, because I feel like, and not just men, but I feel like when we do have emotions and we don't know how to express them, it's usually through anger or, like that. And so, it's just we're not taught how to express our emotions, and the emotions do come with sex. So I think, when you're in high school, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get it in. And then they grow up and no one's explained anything more, and that's all that they know. And so then that's what they just keep going with. But I did think it was interesting because it was like a 10-question quiz, and it'll tell you your primary one, the free quiz. You have to pay for the one that tells you like the breakdown of the percentages. But I think it would be interesting because I think if there's someone who's genuinely like wanting to learn more, I think it could help them know what's best, And so like for me, I got the number one was sensual, but I like really feel like my close number two is energetic, because I forgot to say also like energetic is like that build up, like that exciting, and like I think that is what's exciting, And so pretty much like they're saying like energetic, sensual, like it's, you could say that you have sex with like, this is like what they were saying in the show of like for an energetic or a sensual person, for them to have sex doesn't mean that penetration had to be involved.
Right. And not like generalizing just to men, because I've seen it with women too, of like avoiding or distracting and or using it as like a coping mechanism, or even like a way to like regain power, because there's a lot of empowerment through intimacy and through sex. And so that's like a really big thing too, is like you can regain like your power and your sense of control over yourself and over your body through like sexual experiences. But it is very interesting on, you know, like people's perspectives, or like how even like sexual preferences can cause like miscommunications in the bedroom, so to speak, and like, oh, our sex life isn't as great because I like this and my partner likes that. And so, you know, and that's almost like taboo to like talk about those like preferences. Or, you know, I remember in grad school, we have to take a human sexuality class, and it was like one of the fun, I don't think funnest is a word, but it was the most fun class that I've taken. And our teacher was really, really great. She's a certified sex therapist. And we did like all of these different like role plays and things like that. And it's like, wow, like communication is a huge piece when it comes to like people's sex life. And I think that's such an area where we feel very like self-conscious, or, well, I can't say that. Or if something doesn't feel good, like how do we communicate that in the moment with somebody? Or even if it's, you know, like online dating and you decide to, you know, sleep with that person, like this is somebody who's like, you're just getting to know them, and there's so much more vulnerability involved in like, how do you communicate your sexual preferences to somebody that you aren't super comfortable with, or, you know, what have you.
Wait, so you're saying you shouldn't talk about your sexual preferences, or you
No,
should?
should. Yes.
Okay, but here's my question. So like, what if I talk about my sexual preferences, but what if I don't know, like what if I don't know what all my preferences are? You know, like I think that these are what mine are, but you know, like
I mean, like in the moment, like with a partner, of like, if you do engage in some type of like sexual activity or intimacy and it doesn't feel good, or you don't like that, or you
oh,
do know
hell
what you would
yeah.
like and you'd prefer them, like, oh, move your hand here, or can you do this instead? Like that's what I mean of like
Oh,
communicating in the moment. Because some people like you won't know, or you're exploring and kind of finding, but like when you're with that person and you're like, I don't like that you're doing that, like, you know, like saying something.
you know, it's funny that you say that, because when you said that, it brought up a moment that I thought about in the show. So I 100% agree with you. I think women are more told to be like submissive and to not say anything and to just like let the man think that he did his job. But like that's not me. I will let you know. And I know it can make things awkward, but like no honey, that didn't work. Um but there was this part in the sex loving goop, and like I will say, when you watch it, like you'll watch some people like have at them on the screen and stuff, so it can be kind of like intense. But there was this one, so she's, you know, she's a certified, and this happened in California, but she's a certified sex therapist, and she brings her partner in to show this couple how much, like pretty much what you were saying of like when you communicate how well that can do. And she pretty much got off just from him playing with her energy. Like he wasn't even touching her body, but like she could feel him, and she's just like on the table like like, and it was just like whoa, like, and all he was doing was like moving his hands like where she was telling him, like she'd be like, put your hand over my heart, and like, and then like move, and she was just telling him where to move her hands. He didn't even touch her, and she was like getting off. And so I feel like, yeah, like if you like can communicate that with someone, like again, obviously it depends, but like with energy, like you just like, it's like that anticipation of like, oh my God, you know? But that was like, whoa, like I'm like, oh my God.
I've never seen that before. That's interesting. I will have to check that show out.
it was very, and then like apparently they're not I don't want to say allowed, but they're only like they can only, it's only certain states that allow this, but there are like sex therapists that do genital touching that help you, maybe get past trauma and things like that if you've had. And so in California, you are allowed to. And so the sex therapist was working with, this was a different couple, but the one woman, like, whenever someone would penetrate, she would like kind of like get tight and like it would just be painful. And so she worked through it by like helping her. And it's interesting because it was just like, at any point you can tell me to stop, and and I think that's something that people don't feel they can do.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think more so of like women than men is like
Yeah.
you wait till it's over kind of thing, and then that's where
Mhm.
like the shame comes into play, and like you're stuck in this spiral of like, why did I allow this? I didn't feel comfortable. My body was like screaming for me to stop, or I could feel like I was tensing up because I felt triggered or I didn't like this kind of thing. And I think that's where like the communication and the empowerment piece comes into play for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know how like it's the thing, like women will fake getting off. I don't why? Like I feel like why, like, not that we build up men's ego or whatever, but it's like, no, let that man know. Let that man know he doesn't know what he's doing, like why? So then he can be like, yeah, I did. And then we're over here like, no, you didn't. Like, like just be like, no, bro.
Well, I
That was
think from like
horrible.
a historical standpoint, again, like sex was viewed for like men's pleasure or
Yeah.
for what's the word for making babies? Procreation, is that the word?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like about women's pleasure, and it wasn't like you get to be pleasured too. And so I think that's even still like being ingrained in like young adults and kids, not like super super young kids, but like teenagers kind of thing.
Yeah.
um it's not about like the woman. It's still like, well, you need to do this for the guy, or if I do this then he'll like me, or
Mhm.
I'll be able to keep him, sort of thing. And that's something that I've definitely seen like working with clients for sure.
And also going off of that, like all around like the virginity too, like how it's such a big deal for a woman to lose it, but it's nothing for a dude to lose it. Like, why does that matter?
Yeah,
So,
I think it's the difference in the gender norms though, for sure.
yeah.
But that
Well,
is to be continued, because I think we could talk
mhm.
for a whole episode on
I know.
on the gender differences between men and women for sure.
We should. That'll be an episode. Let's make a note of that.
In the noggin.
It's there. All right. Well,
We are wrapping up, and we are almost out of time because Shamina has people to see and people to listen to.
people to do, things to see.
No, no, no. That will be stricken from the record.
But I do want to I want people's opinion on if they've seen the Sex, Love and Goop, what their opinion of was the show, but also if you're willing to share what was your sex blueprint, because I'm curious.
Yeah, Carly's been very curious ever since she's watched this show.
It's very interesting. I find that stuff so interesting. I love it. Love
It's
it.
super cool, like in the clinical world too, of like being like a certified sex therapist. And it's very attractive to a lot of like clinicians of like, oh, I want to go this route and like specialize in this for sure. There's a lot in there.
Well, I feel like because talking about it does seem so taboo, like if I were to ever do therapy, I feel like I'd want to do something like that too, because it's like a sense of like, if I'm being a sex therapist, then maybe it'll be like less like, why is it so taboo to talk about it? Like, that's literally how people are created. And yet we won't tell little kids how people are born and we make them like figure it out, and then social media comes into play, and that's just never good.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, I can go on a rant. So
let us know. Comment below, DM us on Instagram at emotionfulpod, comment on Facebook at emotionful podcast. And we'll see you
next week.
Yes, we will see you all next week.
Thanks for listening to us rant and kind of go off the deep end today. We appreciate y'all. You the real MVP.
Bye.
Bye.